Tara. Why did I say Tara? Tara? I feel like I said your name weird. Hello, it's going well. How are you doing? How's it going? So, I'm kind of, it's undefined too. Okay, I don't know why I... You know, like, sometimes you say stuff and, like, it gets in your head. I don't know. Don't mind me. It's the weekend. My brain is on vacation. But hello, everybody. How is everybody doing today? I'm kind of back on an... Yes! I actually... So... When I first started the island that I was doing villager hunts, I got him after like 10 tickets. And I was like, I can't not have Dobie. You know how much I love Dobie. But yeah, I'm kind of back on an Animal Crossing kick lately. So I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to play. I actually need to do a villager hunt because somebody finally decided to leave. So we're gonna do a villager hunt, and then I'm also gonna be talking about mental health licensure. So this is again, you know, just kind of me talking about my experience in being a grad student and going through my internship. But then also, you know, I think that there are some pretty important things to consider. You know what, I'm gonna leave my ladder behind so I don't have to some pretty good things to consider if you yourself are hoping to get licensed, you know, some kind of just some stuff to maybe think about. And there are also a lot of creators out there who already have like videos on subjects like this, but again, I thought it would be kind of cool to kind of like share my perspective and everything. So I'll be kind of talking about, you know, something to consider as far as like getting your license and just kind of the process, and you know, just to hopefully help somebody be maybe a little bit more prepared than I was, at least. Because I did do my research before I actually started grad school, but you know, you can't be fully prepared for everything all the time. So for me, I guess I'll just start with a little bit of background as far as what I'm studying. Hello, Munchie, you guys won, nice. Wait, so you're still in Legend, right? So yeah, so as far as like me, what I'm gonna be licensed in, so my program, and I'm at like the tail end of my program now, but my program is for forensic psychology specifically, and to be a licensed professional counselor, which is an LPC license. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about, you know, different types of licenses and all that kind of thing. But Octavian, no, I'm good. So so that's what my program is in, and I was honestly pretty limited on what types of programs I could pick to study forensic psychology specifically, because the focus of the study in my program is just, the best way I can explain it is just kind of like the intersection between psychology, mental health, and the law. Hi, Says. How's it going, Says? So it's, you know, it focuses on those things, which is something that I really wanted to do. I kind of being into true crime myself. Just, I know how messed up the criminal justice system is. So like, I love that I was able to kind of learn more about that, and then also learn about mental health and how that impacts people. So that's the reason that I picked my program. So now for some I guess that's like the benefit, right? That I got to merge like two worlds that I really, really enjoyed. Um, but some of the drawbacks of this program is that it it lacks accreditation. And oh, thank you for the hydrate. It's My program is not accredited, and what I mean by that is that when you look into different programs, there is usually like an accrediting body, right? They basically like to let you know that your program is legit, to put it in simple terms. Um, so mine, there is no accrediting body for it, and the reason for that is because it's forensic specific. Um, Now, if I would have gone through like a regular mental health counseling program, my school is an accredited school for that. So that really just makes getting your license a lot easier because there are some states that require that specific accreditation. So, the reason I picked my program, even though it wasn't accredited, is again because I got to kind of merge those two worlds that I really, really enjoy. But, the drawback of that is I can't just go and get licensed in whatever state I want. So I am pretty limited when it comes to that. Um, and for me specifically, I had no idea that I was going to end up in North Carolina. And North Carolina is one of the states that has that specific accreditation. So thankfully, I'm right by the South Carolina border and I can be licensed in South Carolina. Now, this is not to say that in the future I'll never be able to be licensed in North Carolina, but it might be a much longer process for me because really it's up to the state board eventually to determine if they want to let me get licensed in North Carolina. So that's kind of like a little bit of background as far as the program that I chose and why I chose it. But I would say if you are somebody who wants to be a licensed mental health practitioner, I think it does require a lot of research to, for one, figure out what type of practitioner you want to be because there are a lot of different licenses out there. So, like mine is, when I'm eventually licensed, is LPC, licensed professional counselor, but then you also have LMFTs, which are licensed marriage and family therapists. There's LCSW, licensed clinical social worker. So you get the point. There are a lot of different ones. So I think it's worth it to do some research if you're able to speak to any professionals that are already in the field to kind of understand the scope of what they do professionally and see if that's something that you want to do yourself. So I would say that that's like the first step, right? You want to make sure you understand what type of practitioner you want to be. And then I would also say that you need to determine up to what level of education you want to have because there's different things that you can do as well. So, I mean, regardless, for any type of like practitioner, now I can't speak for every single license, but I'm pretty sure with all these licenses, you have to have at least a master's degree. Um, so be prepared to be at least at the master's level with it. However, there are differences between master's level and like a PhD or a PsyD level. So by the way, PsyD, I know a lot of people are not super familiar with it, but PsyD is also like a doctorate degree in psychology. It's just that the program focuses a little bit more. There's more of like a clinical work emphasis versus like a research emphasis. But you can do different things. Like you can do more things when you're at the doctorate level. There's certain assessments that you can complete. Actually, also in forensic psychology, a lot of the assessments that forensic psychologists complete. So this would be like stop! I got lucky. I got lucky and found Lucky. Okay, he's coming to my island. Oh, I love this doggy so much. Anyway, sorry. I got excited because I love this dog so much. So anyway, like I was saying, so at the at the doctorate level, there are a lot of things that you can do. So you can complete a lot more assessments in forensic psychology specifically to be an actual forensic psychologist. I should say any title, any psychologist title means that somebody went all the way to the doctorate level as far as their education is concerned. Because I have had people that tell me like, oh, you're going to be a forensic psychologist, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not, because I'm studying up to the master's level. I don't know that I want to go all the way to, to my PhD. I am not sure I have it in me, to be quite honest. But yeah, those are some of those differences. So I would say also make sure you do your research and kind of understand what it is that you want to do exactly. Because another thing that is beneficial if you do want to go all the way to a doctorate level degree is many times for a lot of programs you can go to that straight from a bachelor's degree. That's something I didn't know in the beginning. I actually found that out through SES. Because I didn't even know that that was possible. I always thought you had to get like your bachelor's degree, then your master's, and then you can get your doctorate. But you can actually get your PhD when you have just your bachelor's degree, because in the process you're basically earning your master's degree as well with all your education. So those are, you know, things to consider. And hang on, buddy, you're coming home with me, dude. Sorry. Give me a second. Wanna come to mine? Yes. I'll be waiting for you. All right. So we already found our villager. Like, that was like the fastest thing in the world. Like, it's crazy. But, yeah. And the other thing that I want to say about having your doctoral degree is also understand the difference between being a psychologist and being a psychiatrist, because psychiatrists go through med school and they're the ones that can prescribe medication. So, you know, if you want to be a psychologist, that doesn't necessarily mean that you would be able to prescribe medication. Now, I will say there is stuff that is changing in the mental health field, and some states are looking at giving psychologists prescriptive authority. I think that's the proper way to say it. There are some states that are looking to change all of that. But again, that's something that if you want to go there, you would have to do all of your research. But those are kind of some of the differences between like a master's level and a doctorate level. Yes, I'm ready to go home. And I already talked a little bit about accreditation, so I would also say like make sure you do your research on that and figure out what type of accreditation you need for the specific license that you want to get, because you also don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by like going to a school that isn't accredited and then you come to find out later that you need to have graduated from a program that's accredited. So some of the ways to find those things out is to look at the state's regulations, and it can be kind of a pain if you're doing research on your specific state. I can't speak for every state, but I will say for South Carolina, it has been a little bit of a pain, and there are some discrepancies that I've found, at least for the type of license that I'm getting. And to be quite frank, the board isn't always very helpful. Like, sometimes it's gonna take making a lot of phone calls, writing emails, and even still, like, you could speak to different people and get different answers every time. So that's also kind of a pain, you know? So those are all things to consider when it comes to that. But those are all things that you can research beforehand, and it'll kind of also help to make your decision, to sort of narrow down all of those things, because it can be very, very overwhelming. And one thing I will say as far as my program, so I am okay with having gone the route of an LPC, or a licensed professional counselor. I am okay with having gone that route, but I will say one of the things that I really like about like social work, for example, is that I feel like social workers were trained to be a little bit more holistic in nature, and like when they consider helping people, they kind of, they consider like systems and how that affects and everything. And it's not just clinical. It's not just like, okay, this person is presenting with these symptoms, so this is a diagnosis that I'm giving them. It's not as simple as that. That's one thing that I really admire about social work. And I will say for my program specifically, I also feel like it was a little bit more holistic, because we do consider how a lot of different things can impact somebody's mental health negatively. And we don't just simply make, assumptions, or just simply slap a diagnosis on somebody. Like, that's not how I've been trained. So those are some other considerations as well. Especially, I feel like especially the world that we're living in now, it's really good to be able to consider some of those things. Consider all the different aspects that are impacting a person, to be able to like effectively help somebody. Because really, you need to consider what's best for your clients, and for them, in order for your clients to feel heard, to feel validated, the way to be effective is to really consider like to be able to look at the bigger picture and see what's impacting them. So those are some of the things, that's one of the things that I like about my program as well, that I feel like it is a little bit more holistic than just simply like, here, let's train you how to diagnose somebody. Here's a list of symptoms, and I'll slap a diagnosis. Like that, I haven't been trained like that, and I'm not being trained like that at my site either. Like, I'm being trained to look at the bigger picture, to consider a lot of different factors that could be contributing to the person's experience. But I'll go into more detail about like the kind of work that I'm doing at my site when I kind of talk about that, because the other really important thing to consider when you're going into this field is, when you're going into this field is that you are going to have to complete an internship. In some states, it'll be a practicum and internship. So I live in a state where I have to complete a practicum and internship. I'll be completely honest, I'm not sure why it's specified that way. Because really, like, I'm not sure what the exact distinction is, because I do feel like the work that I'm doing, I don't know what the difference would be once I get into my internship, outside of like maybe I'll have a bigger caseload. But I guess practicum might be more like your training in all the stuff that doesn't have to do with direct clinical work. And that's just my guess. I'm not saying that that's like accurate, so just kind of take that with a grain of salt. It's just what I think. But yeah, my state does specify like I have to do 100 hours of practicum and 600 hours of internship within a year to be able to graduate. And then kind of going back to the license. So once I've completed that, once I've completed all my graduation requirements, I'll be able to apply for a license. So I'll have to take an exam. I'll be able to apply for a license, but this is this would be an associate license. So what that means is, like, yes, I would be able to have a license, but I'm not fully licensed as a practitioner. So I would still need to get a lot of hours working directly under another supervisor. So I will still need to be supervised. And that can be like I want to say it's like a 2-year process before I can fully be considered like independently licensed. So, you know, all those hours have to be documented, all those supervision hours and everything. But it really is a long process because, you know, the type of work that you do as a mental health practitioner is very, very important, and people's lives are at stake. So, you know, I think it is a good thing that there's a lot of requirements when it comes to that. Some people may feel differently. It is a pain, I will say, living it now. It is kind of a pain because some state boards do make it pretty complicated. You know, where like you can only be trained by people who have this specific license, which to me, I'm kind of like, we're all doing the same type of work, truly. You know, like if you're training at a specific agency, does it matter if somebody has a license that's different? Like if I'm going to school to be a licensed professional counselor, why should it matter that a social worker is training me or supervising me? You know what I mean? But, you know, it is what it is. So you have to just kind of do your research and follow your state's regulations. So that's one very important thing to consider as well. And now kind of going back to internships. So the internship process is tedious. It's very tedious. For me, for example, it took so long for me to find an internship. For me, it was more complicated because in the beginning, I was going to complete all my requirements in Texas and then relocate. I ended up not doing that because I was really struggling to find an internship, and I didn't want to have to be delaying how much time I stayed in Texas. So I had the option to delay my internship so that I could find an internship after I relocated. But one very important consideration to make when you're going to school is determine like how much work you want to put into searching for an internship, because if you're able to go to a program that already provides that experience for you without you having to independently find your own internship, that could be incredibly beneficial, because it is a pain. It is a pain in the butt, because I mean, it's like finding a job, you know, like you have to contact places, try to schedule interviews, make sure that the people who are there to supervise are actually able to supervise you based on your state's requirements. There's a lot of different things to consider. You know, what type of work are they doing? Is that the type of work that you want to do? Are there multiple supervisors available? Is it just one? You also have to determine if like the supervisor that's available, is that somebody who you want to be supervised by? Like, how would you get along with the supervisor? You know, do you guys have like very different communication styles? Do you have a very different learning style? There's a lot of things to consider, because this is a year-long process, at least for the type of license that I'm getting. It is a year-long process. You want to make sure that you're with somebody who you're going to be able to learn from, and you're going to be comfortable going to with questions, and to get feedback, you know? It is a big pain to go through that entire process. For me, so it's kind of interesting the way I ended up at my site, because for South Carolina, when you go to the licensing board for LPC, there is a list of supervisors that's available, because the state of South Carolina, you do have to be approved as a supervisor to be able to supervise people. And on the website, you can actually pull up a whole list. You can export it into like an Excel file, and you'll see all the different supervisors that have been approved as supervisors. So that's how I started doing my search and contacting people, right? Like, I was doing a lot of research. If they had websites, I would go take a look at their websites, see what kind of work they were doing. A lot of times you can find information about what type of school they went to, what type of work they're doing, if there's any kind of specializations. So I was contacting a lot of people. A lot of times people are very busy and they won't call you back. That was my experience with a lot of this search as well. A lot of times people don't call back. You could send 5 different follow-ups and they won't contact you again. And I personally didn't hold that against them. I realized that a lot of times people are very, very busy. And let's be real, their clients are more important than a student trying to find an internship. So there was a mixed bag of stuff. So a lot of times I wasn't getting responses. There were other times where they would reach out and be like, hey, we're not looking for interns at this time. Somebody actually ended up responding to me and suggesting that I contact the site that I'm at. This site wasn't on my radar initially because the supervisor was not listed on my list of approved supervisors. But I ended up contacting them anyway, so I ended up starting my internship there. My school had to approve it, and I had a lot of issues there that I'm not gonna get into specifically. But it has been a really long process to even approve me to be able to train there. However, I am very happy that I'm there. I have a really incredible supervisor. I'm learning a ton. It's the place where I want to be. So even though it took me a very, very long time to get there, I'm very happy that I ended up there because I am learning a ton. Like, when I tell y'all, many times I get home and I am like mentally just wiped out because it's a lot. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of just a lot of learning, like it's not easy work, but I have a really awesome supervisor who will sit down and talk to me about any kind of questions I have, any kind of feelings that arise from the type of work that I'm doing, because it is very difficult work emotionally, mentally. So I think it would make a really big difference if I was being supervised by somebody who didn't consider my experience and want to make sure that I'm okay, that I'm taking care of myself mentally so that I can take care of my clients as well. So it is a long process, but it is well worth it. Another thing to consider when it comes to internships is you also have to think about the amount of time that you'll have to spend at these sites. And I believe this varies by school, but a lot of schools, they won't actually allow you to get paid to complete an internship. Some may allow you to get a stipend, but even then, depending on where you're completing your internship, you may not even have the option to get a stipend either. Like, sometimes it's just straight up, volunteer hours. For me, that's the case. I was not, I'm not getting any kind of stipend. I'm not getting any kind of money for training there. But it, obviously, it works out for me because I'm getting trained. And then the site, they're providing the training as well, but they also they also have more clinicians that can work directly with clients. And where I'm at is a nonprofit, so they need that. You know what I mean? Like it's not like the money's flowing in at nonprofits, but it is very, very important work. So those are all things to consider. You know, a lot of places are open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and it's like, if you're working, like, do you have a job where you have that flexibility, where you're afforded that flexibility to be able to be on site and still keep your job, you know? Or do you have to make the difficult decision to maybe leave that job, find something that's more flexible, or just, if you're lucky enough to not work while completing your internship, which I know is also very difficult. Not everybody has that ability. I was very fortunate in that I don't have to work during my internship. I don't have to work, but it would be nice to work, to have a little bit of extra money coming in, you know? But I was very fortunate in that sense, and I know that that's also like can be kind of unrealistic. So that's what makes going into mental health and getting your license very difficult. And then also just kind of thinking about realistically about how much money you might make, especially right in the beginning. You know, if you're brand new into the field, you may not make quite as much money. More money may come in at a later time. That's kind of the place where I'm at. For me, it was a complete career switch going into mental health. So I'm actually taking a pretty big pay cut from the career I had before, which is, to me, it's okay. It's worth it because it's something that I want to do. It's something that is going to be very fulfilling. It brings me a lot of joy. So for me, it's worth it. It just requires some preparation on my part to make sure that I can take care of myself financially until then. So again, all things you have to consider because they're going to vary a lot based on where you're at in life, what kind of opportunities you have. So those are all really important things to consider when you're wanting to go into this field. And I think the last thing that I really want to say is make sure that you're advocating for yourself if you're going into this field, because I sort of mentioned having some issues with the state board, not getting answers to things that I needed to know. Make sure that you bug people. You bug people enough, because you have to be comfortable bugging people. Because nobody's going to advocate for you, right? I mean, this is your license. You need to make sure you're advocating for yourself. Make sure that you become a pest if you have to. You know, that's something that is really hard for me to do, to be quite honest. I have a hard time with that, like just being annoying, because I'm just like, damn, I don't want to look bad, I don't want to bother people, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But in reality, you know, I also had to tell myself, like, this is my license we're talking about. I want to make sure that I can get my license, that I will get my license without any kind of problems, because if I spend an entire year training at this site, I don't want to have any problems when it comes time for me to actually apply for my associate license, because then that would be an entire year gone, you know. I was already like 170 hours into my internship when I was still having some issues, and I was like, no, I do not accept this, like, this is not okay. So I was pestering people, and I also, you know, my supervisor was more than okay stepping in to make sure that I got what I needed. So that's also another thing. Make sure that you let people help you. That's another very important thing to consider. I know that that's sometimes hard. I know it's hard for me I I have a hard time letting people help me sometimes. So those are all very important things to consider when you're looking at what kind of license you want to get. And also, I mean, I will say, just being in my internship, there is also a lot of self-teaching that happens there. Just make sure you're prepared for that too, because it's not only a really big time commitment, you also have to be willing to teach yourself things, because it, you know, as much as your supervisor may want to help you, they still have their own things to do. They're not going to be able to hold your hand every step of the way. I will say my supervisor has never made me feel like I can't come to her, but I also see how busy she is, you know, and she has other interns outside of me as well. So that's something that I keep in mind when I'm doing stuff on site. I definitely try to teach myself where I can, you know, or try to, if I have multiple questions, I try to like write down multiple questions so that I try to write down my questions so that I can address them all at the same time with my supervisor, because sometimes it's just like that. Like, I'm like, do you have a few minutes today? I have questions. I need you, you know, and I just want to make sure, like, to be efficient. But yeah, being efficient, staying organized is another very, very big thing. That's one thing that I have started doing a lot better on site, because at first, when I had like one client, it was very easy to manage, but now it's like, as your caseload grows, you want to make sure you are staying organized, because then you're going to be a mess. You're going to be a mess when you need to do things for clients, and then you can't keep track. So thankfully I haven't experienced that yet, to where like I'm shooting myself in the foot, because I was able to kind of identify like, hey, it's very important for me to stay organized here. I'm going to start to organize all my stuff. So, you know, having a planner, keeping track of to-do, like a to-do list daily, that way you're not missing things. That's something that I implemented very recently, and that's because I was able to identify like, hey, like I have to do XYZ, and I'm finding I don't always have the time. So it just kind of helps to plan your week out better, because you don't want to just show up to your internship and just wing it. That's the last thing that you want to do. So those are just some additional takeaways as far as like experience is concerned on site. But I hope that was helpful. I would say, you know, if you are interested in specific licenses or a specific license, one good place to start would honestly be looking at social media and trying to see what other content creators there are for those specific licenses. That's something that I was doing when I was just kind of doing my research. There are people on YouTube who kind of talk about those things, their experience, the school they went to. So that's a really, really good place to start. For me specifically, if I could go back, would I pick something different? Probably, honestly. But I'm already at the point where I'm very close to graduating, so I'm okay with where I'm at in the process. But I think I just want to be helpful in the sense that I am providing information that gives you some things to consider before you embark on a journey like this. Or if you were just curious about my journey, even if you're not interested specifically in going into this field professionally, you know, I'm more than happy to kind of talk about it. but I felt that this was like kind of like a good first. Well, this is technically our second chat about my internship and practicum experience, but I thought it was a good place to start, you know, to just sort of consider license and consider what your career could look like if you got the license, if you applied for the license and did all your educational requirements and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think this is probably all I wanted to say about this. You know, as we continue on with these chats, there are definitely more things that I can tack on top of this, but I will be posting this. Oops, I will be posting this on YouTube as well, and just have it under my internship playlist. I forgot what I named it. I think it's like clinical internship playlist or something like that. Yeah, as always, we are gonna talk about other things in the future, and as more things come up throughout this year, I will be talking about different things as well. So I have been in my internship, well, practicum. I've been in my practicum for 2 months now. Oh, thank you, Tara. Always full of information. Thank you, I appreciate that. I've been in my practicum for 2 months now. So actually going on 3. Oh my gosh, I'm going on 3, guys. I have 9 months to go. But I know more things are going to be coming up. I will tell you all, these last couple of weeks were a lot. I'm learning so much. And all really cool stuff that I want to be able to share on here. Which, I don't know, I think it's also kind of cool, like, for you to understand some of the stuff that, like, if you're in therapy yourself, some of the stuff that, like, your therapist may have gone through in their educational journey. So yeah, next time I have a couple different options for things that we could cover, so maybe I'll get some feedback on my Discord or something about which topic would be interesting to cover next. But thanks for tuning in for the internship portion of it. Now we're just gonna keep playing Animal Crossing. I don't know, it's just this game is this game is comforting. Something a little therapeutic about island flattening too. It is, honestly. It is. And it's so much work, but it's also, yeah, like you said, therapeutic, because like it's kind of like a fresh start, you know? Like now I have a clearer vision of what I want to accomplish with my island. So I'm like, yeah, like it's cool, but we might continue doing this. I mean, decorating my island is going to be a long process, so it might be kind of cool to like continue having these chats while working on my island. So I'm definitely looking to do this in the future.